As with foreign property purchases, business purchases will require prior approval by the Treasurer to ensure that the purchase is not contrary to Australia's national interest. Approval will be subject to the Treasurer's discretion in making sure investments are not contrary to the national interest. If an investment is contrary to the national interest, the government will intervene. This is not a simple decision, and each case is assessed individually and on its merits. As a general guide, prior approval is required for the following. Number 1, foreign persons should notify the government and get prior approval before acquiring a substantial interest in a corporation or control of an Australian business that is valued at more than $248 million. They also need to notify for prior approval if they wish to acquire a substantial interest in an offshore company whose Australian subsidiaries or gross assets are valued at above $248 million. The exception is for New Zealand investors and United States investors, where the $248 million threshold applies only for investments in prescribed sensitive sectors. A $1,078 million threshold applies to New Zealand and United States investment in other sectors. All foreign persons, including New Zealand investors and United States investors, need to notify the government and get prior approval to make investments of 5% or more in the media sector, regardless of the value of the investment. Foreign persons should also notify for review if they have any doubt as to whether an investment is notifiable. Individuals considered foreigners for the purpose of purchasing a business in Australia include a natural person not ordinarily resident in Australia, a corporation in which a natural person not ordinarily resident in Australia or a foreign corporation holds a controlling interest, that is, holding of 15 or more %. A corporation in which 2 or more persons, each of whom is either a natural person not ordinarily resident in Australia or a foreign corporation holding an aggregate controlling interest, which is a total holding of 40% or more, or the trustee of a trust estate in which a natural person not ordinarily resident in Australia or a foreign corporation holding a substantial interest, or the trustee of a trust estate in which 2 or more persons, each of whom is either a natural person not ordinarily resident in Australia or a foreign corporation holding an aggregate substantial interest. A substantial foreign interest occurs where a single foreigner and any associates has 15% or more of ownership, or several foreigners and any associates have 40% or more aggregate ownership of any corporation, business or trust. This group also includes a US investor who is a national or permanent resident of the United States of America, a US enterprise or a branch of an entity located in the United States of America and carrying on business activities there. If you fall into this category and are able to obtain approval, setting up an Australian company will be fairly straightforward.